everyone, it's Fiktxun Crypto back at it again with another video. And today we're going to be going over a conversation I had with Quincy Jones, a XDC developer, a while back. I think it was about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and we were just chopping it up on one of his Twitter lives, or I guess Twitter Spaces, as you would call them. I was asking him a couple questions about some different topics in crypto pertaining like stable coins and music NFTs. So we are going to break this down into two different videos. The first question kind of ties into the video I posted 2 days ago about Corium and Sologenic and how potentially these bigger companies, these corporate companies, enterprises can use the blockchain to kind of create their own stable coins. And this is a question I asked Quincy because, I like learning from I like learning from kind of everybody. I kind of take what I need to hear or take their perspective and kind of torque it and twist it to see how I can outline my new perspective. And it's a part of learning and growing. And I asked him a question like, hey, Quincy, actually, let's get into the audio clip right here.
What's up, Quincy? I had asked a question up under the, I guess this chat. I was like, do you think we have a future with DApp-specific stablecoins? I know we don't have like any, like set of rules for stablecoins right now, but do you think you may possibly see a future with the application, say for instance, like Amazon having a stablecoin for its particular benefits for its users, or do you think more so the NFT will be something better for that?
I know the audio may be a little bit fuzzy when I'm speaking, but you should be able to hear Quincy a whole lot more clearer than mine. I don't know what was going on. I think I may have been using headphones at the time, but basically I asked him, what do you think about DApp specific stable coins, like companies having their own decentralized application like an Amazon or a Google or something that you may be able to potentially make in the future if you're interested in this blockchain emergence and business. And what if they had their own stable coins? How could we kind of create an economy around that? But first, how would they work? Because my going into the conversation, I was like, maybe they create stable coins because what I know stable coins for right now are just kind of like stable values. You don't really see a lot of people making huge yields. But now that I start to think about it, like I think USDC was offering like a small percentage of 0.3 or 0.2 or maybe even 2% if you staked your money in that stable coin. So I do see where Quincy is about to go in this direction. So we're gonna let Quincy answer this real quick.
All right, I'm so glad you asked that because you literally just unboxed a bigger can of worms than you anticipated. So when it comes to stablecoins, I actually think the future of stablecoins are actually going to look a lot more like how corporate bonds look today, rather than some sort of like intermediary currency that users use as an alternative to dollars in a sense. Now,
and for those people watching who don't know what bonds are, I had to do some research myself because this is a part of a financial literacy journey. And these types of words, you often hear about stocks, but you rarely hear about bonds, the bonds market, unless you're really doing some deep diving into this world of finance. I know that it may be common for some people, but people who are newer to this, like me, you hear stocks and bonds, but you really don't see the advertising of bonds, really. So, what are bonds? Bonds is a legal contract between a lender and a borrower. So basically, we are usually borrowers, or excuse me, we are usually lenders to banks, And it's, well, let's put an example like this. Say, for instance, a bank is a lender of money. Once you want to go there and get like a loan, um, now that contract has an APR, which is going to be a interest rate that may be annually, monthly, however the contract is structured. The bank is going to make money. So therefore, in that case, the bank is the lender and you are the borrower. And in a reverse case, if you lent somebody your money or lend it, excuse me, you now become the lender of that money. In the contract that you have between you and that other person who you're giving the money to is now the borrower. So basically, a bond is just a legal contract with a lender and a borrower. There are also a couple of different types of bonds, and bonds usually have yields, and that is the money of return that is offered or made after the contract requirements are made or met.
What I mean by this is, let's say kind of what you said with Amazon. Amazon may essentially take, let's say they had $100 million worth of Amazon stock or whatever, but instead of essentially just selling that stock or essentially creating a means of funding by essentially selling corporate bonds, they may back their stablecoin by the value, and they may over collateralize their stablecoin by the value of their stock, and then essentially sell, not really sell those stable coins, but essentially use that stable coin the same way that they would use a corporate bond. So yeah, there'd be sort of a selling of the stable coin. They may even have staking rewards where, let's say they wanted to sell their stable coin. Let's say they had $100 million worth of stable coin backed by $120 million worth of stock as collateral. And they sold these stable coins and then said, oh yeah, if you held onto the stable coin or you staked it, and this could be a business, this could be a user, it could be whatever.
I wrote this down on my set of notes because you see how Quincy was talking about a stable coin being collateralized by a basket of assets. And it's very interesting how we get these talks in the XRP community about, I think, the SDR basket, or a basket of assets backing a cryptocurrency network. And it's really, really interesting. So when Quincy kind of said that, I had to do some research down into what bonds were a little bit more. And they already kind of have a system in play in the legacy system that I believe is going to be easily converted into the blockchain with the previous data and stuff like this. This is why Quorium is going to be powerful, because it is a EGB network. And what that allows is for the easy integration information of these older businesses that are already dealing with the ISO codes. So it is kind of a system already. What Quincy was talking about, he basically was saying that if we were to see something like this with stable coins, and specifically DApp specific stable coins, that stable coin would have to be backed by some form of value. Now, I believe, and also he believes, that this form of value will have to be over collateralized to avoid any type of discrepancies, hiccups in the transactions of money and in the accounts of these stable coins, excuse me, especially to hold up the value that they're trying to hold up with. I don't believe that we will ever see any real one-to-one backing of a stable coin or something like that, just simply because I mean, I think that's kind of really difficult to do. And for companies, if they want to continue to grow, it's like they can't overextend themselves. And I know that's what causes debt, but that debt also makes money as well. So I really don't believe we'll see like a one-to-one backing, but I do see a future for over collateralized assets, and what they call these in the real world right now when it comes to bonds is bond funding. Bond funding is basically a bunch of different bonds and different assets that back that bond agreement between the company or how it is held up. And those bond assets and those bonds fundings is how they're usually able to pay off the yield that we talked about earlier.
Let's say if you hold onto the stable coin and you staked it, you can get a 5% rewards or in a year return or whatever. Well, what that allows them to do is they can essentially get that upfront funding by being able to give. And I think that stable coin is essentially just as good as cash. The thing is, it's backed by their stock or backed by whatever asset or whatever they wanted to back it by. Similarly to how they would, like I said, similarly to how they would do bonds. If they were going to issue a corporate bond, that bond is backing by the ability for them to pay it back based off of their ability to generate revenue. So they're just doing the exact same thing with the stable coin. And instead of having to liquidate their stock on demand, they back their stable coin by a stock and then essentially just paid out dollar rewards over a period of time in dollars back to their stable coin simply by people staking it. They can essentially use that as an alternative means for corporate bonds without essentially having to go through all those extra steps as corporate bonds. And since they're selling them as stable coins, they can sell them in really any sort of quantity that they want. So really anybody that has any amount of capital that wants to have access to these coins, whether as a means of storing value for whatever reason, or as a means of accumulating value by, like I said, they want if you stake your stable coin on Amazon AWS, you get a 5% return, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, the stable coin's backed by their stock and they're just making payments back on people being able to redeem those payments. But I think they can redeem them for additional stablecoin, or they can redeem them for dollars themselves. What you may end up seeing as a alternative means too is you may end up seeing those stablecoins being used as some additional form of value between companies, between users, not as dollars. Like you won't go to the store and buy your milk with Amazon stablecoin, but you may essentially be able to go buy your stock on Robinhood for Amazon stablecoin.
I know Quincy said a mouthful right there, and I want to break down a little bit of what he said. He was talking about creating economies around these stable coins, especially for people who are staking, because we are already doing forms of staking in real life. I think staking is just a cool word in the crypto world that gets people excited about being able to potentially make more money. And if you already think about it, before they kind of cut it off, if you had a bank account, they would allow you to make 0.003% interest or 0.03% interest if you hold money in this particular account for this long. And that concept is not new. So we see this fad of staking, which is a concept that is already used in the banking sector. So that was one thing he was talking about. Also, that form of staking would allow for a stablecoin environment and ecosystem that is created. Now, since people are staking, more and more money is coming to that particular stablecoin, which means now that they have liquid capital to do other ventures. And this is basically how the world of money works. So, when you put money in a bank account, they're not just hoarding your money at the bank in a vault and it's just there all day. They're actually actively using that money to purchase assets, to purchase property, to buy things in the real world, because that bank has to make some type of money. And we all know if you let your money sit, it's going to depreciate in value. So this is what Quincy was talking about, how essentially a stable coin with a DApp could work together. And if people are staking into that stable coin, you can create an ecosystem that gives those stakers rewards in some certain type of degree, while also on the back end of that, the business is also able to offer a couple of different types of services for more or to on board, excuse me. I always say on board more and more people. So yeah, I know he kind of said a mouthful right there, but kind of broke that down a little bit. Hopefully you all understand that part.
Point simply based on the fact that Robinhood may stake that stable coin for that 5% return. You see what I mean?
And now I kind of know what I was going to say again, because going back to what I originally thought about stable coins and this idea that I came up with, and I know I'm not probably the only person who thought of this, but just at the time, I didn't hear anybody ask about this in this chat. So I was thinking more so, what if, people had stable coins and we just basically bought the stable coins from the app. Say, for instance, Amazon. It's great to always use Amazon as an example because they're on top of their game. But I was thinking more so, what if we use this like buy certain things and the people who had these stable coins at some time get certain discounts. I wasn't even thinking about creating forms of value and yield. I was thinking more so for a retail user. Hey, if you got this stable coin on this particular day, we give out, or whenever at random, we give out these types of discounts for our products. Because now, if you do something like that, you keep so much more money in that ecosystem, in your ecosystem for your own application than you allow to actually escape your ecosystem. Because now that brings more brand loyalty to you. I know a lot of people like to make money um, and do all that types of stuff. But I don't think a lot of people understand generating yield and putting your money up for this right here instead of, or on the other side of that, I think more people understand getting discounts. And I believe that that is a more common or agreeable thing for somebody who is shopping with Amazon to want, instead of putting money up for collateral and getting a certain amount of percentage of money back in a while. It's kind of the same concept, but it's also very different. You know what I'm saying? Because you can have specific stable coins for particular items. So say for instance, your girl like a certain type of what's it called? Makeup. And the makeup company, say for, I don't know, a makeup company, I guess Maybelline or something like that, if females still use that. Maybelline have their own stable coin, and the Maybelline users and purchasers of that stable coin gets discounts to use specifically for that product, um, on that product, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, that's kind of where I was going. But he went into a whole nother like lane with this one. Quincy Jones. He was talking about using the stable coins to purchase stocks and all this stuff. Quincy is, hey man, I gotta give it to Quincy. Every time I talk to him, he really opens my mind up for a new conversation that needs to be had in the crypto world. I really like it. So
Yeah. You went down totally a different lane that I was thinking about, but that was a really great explanation. And I also was thinking about like more so for applications or larger businesses becoming their own type of banks, essentially by having their own stable coins and using that information from those stable coins for whatever particular reason. And then I had something you were talking about, like the Web 2 and the Web 3, the bridging part. I was thinking just like an idea, maybe if somebody created a application with a pre-funded wallet, if each application had its own wallet with the native token for a transaction from the platform, then either the token that the app creator made for doing the other types of transactions. I was thinking of something like that.
You may see something like that too. Like, don't get me wrong. Let's say Amazon had their own stable coin and you could use it, like I said, use it like a bond and stake it for some reward. Or you could use it as a means of paying for AWS services. You see what I mean? Like, you could very much do that also. And being able to, and I think a lot of companies may actually end up doing something like that, where, like I said, unlike a corporate bond, it's not like you can pay for the services in that corporate bond. But let's say Walmart had a token, a stable coin. Let's say Amazon had a stable coin. Let's say whatever, they all had a stable coin. Google, whatever, had a stable coin. And you may not be able to go to your local store and buy milk with that stable coin, but you may be able to either stake that stable coin that's backed by whatever abstract value that they have it backed by, and be able to gain rewards, or just use their services for that stable coin so they can essentially redeem the value that they essentially leverage by essentially giving you that service for that coin back. So you may end up seeing that too, where you can use Amazon services, and maybe even buy stuff on Prime with it, who knows? But essentially, you're able to take this technology and either stake it for additional value or just utilize it for whatever service that they provide as a credit token in a sense.
Well, thank you for answering that. And if you see this big F right here, my profile picture, I'm good people. I'm not gonna come up here and be tripping with you now.
No, you're good. I usually try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but some people like to take advantage of it. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. You're just killing the vibe for everybody else. Like, I love talking about these. It seems like you guys really like engaging with these. So, like, it's just cool to keep the vibe going, especially in regards to where the future technology could go. So I very much appreciate the questions in all regard. These are good freaking questions. I love it. But yeah, no, I've definitely gotten a few bad actors in a few of these, so it's a little annoying, but very much appreciate where things are going.
I was in the last space with you.
And yeah, that kind of wraps up the conversation that we had initially right here with Quincy. But I will show you all how I kind of got the idea of Corium or Sologenic actually being a stable coin.